Eddie Murphy, when your agent handed you the script for this movie, your response required nothing more than a single one-word answer. No. A Thousand Words stars Eddie Murphy as Jack McCall, a fast-talking Hollywood literary agent who's very ignorant of those in his working lifestyle and his personal lifestyle back at home with his wife and young son. His constant fibbing soon catches up with him when he makes a bad deal with a New Age guru's book deal, who's played by Cliff Curtis, and ends up cursing Murphy's character with this tree that grows in his backyard, and every time a leaf falls from that tree is when he says a word, and he realizes that there's only 1,000 leaves left on the tree, so hence he has 1,000 words left to say. That's the title of the movie, and if he ends up going past 1,000 words, he will die. If you thought John Carter was a poorly marketed movie, wait till you see this movie and compare it to its trailers, because the trailers make it look like to be the typical lighthearted yet mediocre comedy that Eddie Murphy puts out every few years now, but when you actually see the movie, it is so much different than that. And when it got to the point where it was so much different than I expected it to be, it turned into one of the worst movie-going experiences I have experienced in months. From the very first scene that you see Murphy's character, you can tell that his performance is phoned in because it lives up nothing to his comedic potential that we've seen him work on in the past in much better comedies, and all that he really does is a game of charades throughout the movie for when his character can't speak. I'd rather just watch The Artist again than watch a silent Eddie Murphy. A silent Eddie Murphy is enough for me to already start hating a movie, because the main reason why he is funny is not only because of his physical comedy approach, but also because of his fast-talking dialogue style, and when you take that away, your movie really has absolutely nothing to work with then. Clark Duke is one of the best young comedians working today, but I don't know what drew him to this movie in the first place, because I chuckled maybe once at his character in the entire film, and the rest of his jokes are just very dated ones and ones that just feel very childish at times. That's a huge waste of talent for that kid, because he's one of my favorite young comedians working today. In addition to Murphy and Duke, this movie wastes several big stars that are in this movie, especially Allison, Janney, and Jack McBrayer, and both of them are really good actors. Jack McBrayer is great on 30 Rock, and he turns up in a few comedies every now and then where he is pretty funny, and he just gets to play a Starbucks employee with very repetitive lines of dialogue, which it just really did nothing for me. Without a doubt, the biggest flaw in this movie, though, is the structure of its writing, because a lot of the jokes are dated, and that's mostly because that this movie was filmed back in 2008, and then was set for release in 2009, but the whole shift between Paramount and Viacom along with DreamWorks ended up shelving it for a while, and now it's finally released then. You'll realize how dated that the jokes are in this movie when you hear Eddie Murphy's character's cell phone ringtone for the first time, and that song was none other than Lil Wayne's Lollipop. Yeah, sure, everybody remember when that rap went out, back in 2008, of course. Furthermore, in the relation to the jokes being very outdated, there are a lot of very childish moments of comedy where you're going, okay, is this made for kids in parts, or is it supposed to appeal for adults? I know that the movie's rated PG-13 and there's like a lot of cussing every now and then in it, but there are certain moments of comedy where it just feels so sophomoric, and I just started to feel so much pity for Murphy for having to put up with those scenes. But the worst part within the writing, though, is the way in which it makes a shift from being a lighthearted comedy to an incredibly schmaltzy and emotionally forced drama, where they just bash you in the head like getting hit in the head by a sledgehammer, because they just pile on one schmaltzy and emotionally forced scene after another, and they are scenes that you have seen hundreds of times in other movies, yet they do not stop. I was at a point where we're going, okay, I know we're supposed to feel bad for this guy, but they just keep on going on and on and on with all these forced dramatic scenes that you just want to leave at that point. Director Brian Robbins just seems to play along with the idiocracies in the script and do absolutely nothing with them, because his direction style is extremely stale as expected, but when you find out that this guy's previous credits working with Eddie Murphy were Norbit and Meet Dave, you know what, I don't even have to finish that statement right there. You're perfectly fine enough for figuring that out on your own right there. Overall, 1,000 Words is nothing more than just to show that there's still over 1,000 problems with Hollywood today, and this movie certainly showcases all of those. Eddie Murphy, I felt so bad for him being in this movie, because he does nothing more than get to play a long 90-minute game of charades for most of the film. And you know what? Even if you're a diehard fan of charades, or a mime for that matter, you're better off not even seeing this movie or renting it in the future. I am going to be generous with my rating and give this movie 1 star out of 5. So I hope you enjoyed my review / rant of 1,000 words. I would be very surprised if any of you watching this saw this movie, and if you did, comment below with your thoughts because I am very curious of what you thought on it. So in the meantime, I'm Tar from CaliCritic Reviews. Please skip this movie and save yourself your $10, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.